Hello, welcome to Vine Chat, a nice little offshoot of Wild Wine Life. I am Ray Maxwell, and we are honored to have Kyle McCellan of Brace for Impact with us today to sit down and have a little chat. And also, you played for the Cardinals a little while, didn't you?
I did for a few years, yes.
Just a few years. And had a lot of fun along the way.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no. Thank you for joining us. Have a little cheers. And
cheers.
The big part of Vine Chat is just a fun conversation over wine. And Kyle, you're married to your wonderful wife, Bridget. You have a son, a daughter. You grew up here in St. Louis, graduated from Hazelwood West, kind of things that everybody in St. Louis know about.
Yep.
Along with the 2011 magical year of the St. Louis Cardinals. But let's start with Brace for Impact. You had mentioned that you had a life-changing trip in 2014 to Haiti. What was so significant about that trip that just inspired you to start Brace for Impact?
Yeah, so you kind of goes back to my history of, growing up here in St. Louis, having the opportunity. I was drafted out of high school by the St. Louis Cardinals, spent 6 years in the minor leagues, 5 years in the major leagues, won a World Series here. And during that whole time, my wife and I were looking for something we could do to give back to the community. It's where I was born and raised. It helped produce me and provide what I needed to reach my goal professionally of where I wanted to be, and then ultimately that ultimate goal of winning the World Series and being on a team that's a World Series champion. And so we wanted to give back, and we had a hard time finding that. And I'm not somebody that just puts my name on something and kind of shows up and waves to the crowd. I wanted to be involved with it, and as did my wife. And so as we were looking, I think understanding the height of my platform as a player in St. Louis might not have been the best time for us to start that charity. And kind of to elaborate on that, it's for me to be a Major League Baseball player and to be successful. It took so much focus and concentration and dedication. And I tried, being in my hometown, I really put myself in a bubble so that I could be able to perform on the field. And so I tried to eliminate a lot of those things off the field, and even things like, running a charity and being involved in that. I just didn't want that to take away from my production on the field. And so it just wasn't the right time. But we had put money away and waiting for that future opportunity. And in 2014, that opportunity came via Adam Wainwright and his wife. And they said, hey, I had talked to Adam a lot about our giving, and Adam and I align very similarly on almost everything. And so we had great conversations. He was a great role model and mentor for me. And in those discussions about, hey, what are some things we can get involved with? He said, why don't you come with us on this trip to Haiti? We got involved with a children's home over there. Adam, Jenny and I did, and we're going to see it for the first time. So why don't you come with us? And so Bridget and I went on that trip, and it was life-changing for us. It was what it opened up for us was, we didn't want to get involved internationally. We wanted to be local. We wanted to be in St. Louis and find that work here. But what we learned, and now I look back 8 years later and can say, okay, there's a reason we started in Haiti, and that is because we learned so many lessons during that process of how to truly help people in a way that produces fruit. So we learned those lessons through a partner of ours that's been in the nonprofit space for 20-something years, and we were able to kind of speed that process up through him. Come back to St. Louis 2 years later, and then we're able to find our local project that we were able to get involved with, and have been extremely successful in both. And I think it's because of the timeline and the way we did it, and the lessons we've learned and applied along the way.
I think it's really cool that it's not just Haiti, but something locally as well. And one of the things I really love is your long ball, long game approach to Brace for Impact, that you really not just focus on helping the families on the here and now, but you focus on education for the children that you're helping. That it's like it's planting the long-term seeds within these communities. Can you speak to the importance of how education helps your vision to assist the greater good in the long term?
Well, that goes international and local, right? I mean, education is, I think it's something that we take for granted, and especially if you haven't traveled internationally or seen things outside of kind of the structure and system we have here in the United States. When you get over to Haiti and you realize that majority of the people are not able to read or write, majority of people in the population are uneducated because one of finances, lack of finances, and two, because they have to provide for their family. So at young ages, the kids are going to get the water, or, providing things that the family needs to survive. And that's hard to see. And when you think about, okay, how do we get out of this situation? If you're not educated, that's a much steeper hill to climb. And so where we were able to come in Haiti and say, okay, it started with the children's home. It's fine to have them in this environment that's safe and can provide things for them, but now we got to educate them. And so then it started with the school. We started with, I think we had like 70 something kids in the school from the community and our kids in the children's home. Now we have 440. Grown a grade every year, just completed a high school, so we're able to take them from pre-K all the way to 12th grade. And I can tell you, one of the best things that we see down there on our trips is when you stand there and watch the kids from the community come into the gates, knowing that they're getting an education. We also had to improve that schooling through a feeding program. So on Mondays, the teachers were telling us the kids aren't good. They're not able to stay awake. They're not paying attention. The behavior's not good. Well, we sent a survey out and figured out the kids aren't eating on the weekends. And so we started a feeding program where we feed the kids every day at school at lunch. And it's a lunch that my wife and I have always said, it's a lunch that we would be proud that our kids would eat every day. It's not just feeding them just to feed them. It's feeding them to provide what they need, for their body, nutrition-wise, for their body development-wise, for their brain development and all that, so that this education they're getting, they can actually use it and apply it and make it work. And so, that was a big part of our education piece down there. We'll flip that when you come to St. Louis, the area we work in North City, St. Louis. What you learn with instability of families moving from house to house to house is that their education takes a hit from that, because kids are now jumping into different schools, or their transportation to get to those schools, so they're not able to get there, so their tardies, their absences are very high. And so by stabilizing that family and giving them a home, a place they can stay at long term, now is going to give the stability to those children in the home, to where they can now have that consistent education. So that's been a huge piece. Just the stability piece here in North City really is a main focus of the family. But what that stability brings, kind of the trickle down effect of that stability, has such an impact on these families, and particularly the kids. So the two programs we run are different, but there's a lot of similarities. Just the circumstances are different, and the things we have to provide, but the end goal of both programs are exactly the same.
That's really neat. What do you think is the greatest accomplishment Brace for Impact has made in those two? Or or is that just kind of a repetitive question?
Well, I mean, it's in my baseball career, people would say, like, do you ever sit back and think about, like, what you've accomplished? And I'm like, no, because I'm still in the middle of it. Like, you don't want to sit back and reflect now. When I'm done, I can sit back and tell those stories and think about, like, but in the time you're kind of going. And same thing with the charity. Like, there's still work to be done. Like, we've done a lot. We've helped a lot of people, but man, there's still so much to do. And so you kind of just keep your head down and keep going. I would say if I had to give you one thing, I would say our ability to work well with others is something that unfortunately seems to be a little rare in the nonprofit space. The nonprofit space is very territorial, very, well, these are our donors, and this is my donor, and you can't be, trying to take away from us, and this is our area and our program we run. And our partner that we have in North City, St. Louis, is incredible at working with other great nonprofits and agencies in North City to help do what we do. we can't do everything. We're not good at everything. And so if we don't have it and we're not good at it, and when there's somebody else that's doing it better than us, we are happy to partner with them to help the overall good of the community. In Haiti as well, there's really two main partners outside of us that we all work together and pool our money together and get to do this. And because of that, we get to be a part of something so much greater than we could ever do on our own. And so we get to see the effects of that and how many more people we get to do just by simply working well together. Not trying to take credit, not trying to, be the one to out there selling your brand or your name or your organization, but truly saying, hey, we're putting the people first, and what do we have to do to reach as many people as we can? Now, you got to have the same vision. That vision has to align. That's a big part of it. I'm not saying, that you just grabbing anybody and everybody and making a partnership. You got to be in the boat going the same direction, but we've been able to accomplish that.
We'll be back with more Wild Wine Life right after this break.
Sounds great.
Welcome back to Wild Wine Life. I'm Ray. I'm here with Kyle McCellan. We're enjoying a little bit of wine, and we've just switched over to a little Silver Oak Alexander Valley Special Vintage 2008. I think that was your first year with the Cardinals?
That was my debut year, yeah. It was a special year for me. I'll drink to that.
I'll drink. Cheers.
Cheers.
So how can people donate to Brace for Impact or volunteer?
Yeah, so the volunteer one's tough for us. It's really the one thing organizationally we haven't figured out a great way because of the way that we do our work. So Haiti, obviously not everybody can jump on a plane and go down there and spend the time down there. In North City, the approach we take is, we try to support through the work that we're doing, through the remodel of houses. We purchase these homes, remodel them with all local contractors. So 80% minority participation in our labor force, creating jobs and opportunity for people that live in and around this community. And so we've had a lot of people that, hey, we can put together our workforce can come down and do volunteer days. And not that we're against that, but it's just not the way that we're choosing to go about it because we're trying to employ people through the process. And so we create 50 jobs for every house renovation. It creates 50 jobs for people to provide the stability for their family. And one of the cool things is we've been doing this for 7 years. And a lot of the guys that I met on the first house are still there on the last house, and that we've been doing. And so creating those jobs and opportunity has been huge and provided more community buy-in from people that live in and around the community. And so that's been a great way. We do have some volunteer opportunity. We just packaged 75,000 meals last weekend for our feeding program in Haiti that we do. And we have things like that. But our website is the best way to make a donation. And we run independently of each other. So we have two different bank accounts. If North City and local is your thing that you're passionate about, you can donate to that, and the money goes 100% to North City. If international or Haiti is what's exciting to you, it stays there. We don't blend the two. We don't dictate what goes where. The donor gets to pick where the money goes and support those programs.
What are those websites?
BraceForImpact46.com is our website, and then we have on there you'll see a Haiti and a North St. Louis tab, and you can donate accordingly.
Okay. Here's a question for you. What you've achieved in life and what you've built, do you feel that same level of opportunity is something unique to the United States?
Expand on that a little bit for me.
Well, I've always said that we're blessed
Mm-hmm.
to be born or at least live in the United States.
You won the lottery.
You won the lottery. Yep. Whether you've immigrated here or
Mm-hmm.
you were born here.
Mm-hmm.
And the opportunities that are out there that you decide to pursue as an individual is up to you, how you define the great American dream.
Yeah.
And then what you want to do once you feel you've achieved it is entirely up to you. And do you think as an individual, what you've given back, you think, the level of success, do you think those opportunities would be the opportunities that you found here as an American and as a person who has traveled, you think that they're as easily available in other countries compared to the United States, and the ability to give back are as easy in other countries as they are here in the United States?
Yeah, so I think it looks different, right? So what I tell people all the time, my experience in Haiti, you hear people say this all the time. Well, if you work hard, good things will happen. Well, I can promise you in the situation like what we see in Haiti, that's not necessarily the case. Working hard with opportunity now provides you a path to have success. But some of the people that we see in Haiti are the hardest working people I've ever come across, but they don't have the opportunity, right? And so that's when you pair that hard work with opportunity is where you start to see things expand. So for sure, here in the United States, like we have so many opportunities and we're blessed. Doesn't mean that doesn't come with, there's issues and there's people that might not be able to, for various reasons, be able to, take those opportunities. But they're definitely here more so than what we experience in Haiti. If you travel around to third world countries or, countries in the Caribbean and that, and you ask, you look at the people and you talk to them, what are your opportunities here? Well, a lot of them have maximized on tourism, and so they're doing things that involve that, but their ceiling isn't as high as what we have opportunity wise here in the United States. And so to me, I feel an obligation with that. Like I said, you win the lottery by being born here. More people live like people in Haiti than do like us throughout the world, and I think that's something that a lot of people don't understand. And so with that comes expectation and obligation to give back and provide things for people that, and it looks in different ways. Doesn't mean you have to start an organization and, raise millions of dollars and do all these things. Every situation looks different, being a mentor, being something, but providing that hope and that glimpse of what success looks like to that next generation, I think is a huge obligation that we have, given the things that we have.
Now, I did a little bit of research, and I asked a couple friends of mine at various restaurants that used to hang out at. I said, "Can you tell me a funny story about Kyle McClellan? That I can ask him about." No funny stories. All I heard was, "Ray, he's a super nice guy. He's sweet. He's just quiet. He always was nice to the staff. He wasn't arrogant. He always had time for the fans no matter what." And I said, kind of reminds me a lot of Ozzie Smith and Stan Musial. I said, the way they described you is how people describe Stan Musial and Ozzie Smith. And growing up in St. Louis, you hear those stories.
Mm-hmm.
How much of an influence did their off-field behavior have on you as a kid and an adult?
Well, I think, you come up through the Cardinals organization, growing up here in St. Louis, there's an expectation, right, of how people in the Cardinals organization conduct themselves, carry themselves. And I think I just fit into that really well with kind of my personal expectation. And playing in your hometown comes with a lot of, I say all the time, if I was in Seattle and had a bad game, nobody would know about it. Well, unfortunately, when I'm here and have a bad game, everybody knows about it and I hear about it. And so there's more. I mean, I was a middle reliever, late inning reliever, starter for a little bit, but the recognition that I got, typically that's not a position that guys are recognized a lot. But being here, I mean, you were always in the spotlight. People knew who you were, where you were going, and so to me, there's a standard that I expect of how I'm going to act and conduct myself, and so it's still to this day, like we'll be out and people will come up and say, are you Kyle McClellan? And my kids, they get a kick out of it. They love it, because they weren't around when I was playing. My daughter was born in 2011. Mm-hmm. 2013 was my last year. My son was born. My last game was September in the minor leagues with the Rangers of 13, and my son was born the next month. And so never played a game after that. And so they enjoy, that, but also realizing you're always on. When you see a fan and you see somebody that says hello to you, that's their only opportunity to meet you. experience with you, and that's how they're going to remember you. And so making sure that that's a positive interaction and experience for that person goes a long way.
That is really cool. Now, how exciting was it for you to see your son harvest his first deer this past deer season?
Well, his first year was a couple years ago. So he's 9 now. He was 6. I think he was 6 or 7 when he shot his first doe.
Okay.
And then he shot his first buck. It would have been December of 21. So he was 7, and he shot his first buck. It was actually the buck that I was chasing all year on our farm. Never had an experience. Never had a sighting. Got him a ton on camera, but never saw him in person. First time we saw him was Christmas Eve. My son was hunting, and we saw him come up. He made a great shot at 50 yards with a crossbow, and he was able to harvest a 141-inch 9-pointer. This past year, we had a little change in our farm and our kind of situation, but we sold our farm. That was in Pike County, Illinois, which we had for 10 years and great memories and unbelievable times up there. But a buddy of mine lives 20 minutes from us and said, "Hey, I got this farm. You guys are more than welcome to come hunt it." And so I set it up for hunting, took a blind down there, and took my son there. Our first hunt on the farm, my son shot a doe, and later was able to take him back, and he shot a really good buck again. But those experiences are important, and I didn't grow up hunting. It was something I got into through baseball. But the time that I've spent with my kids hunting, and my daughter hunts as well. She shot her first buck a couple years ago. It's just something special about just me and them doing something they're not used to. And so what that does is that just opens up just a different connection between us, because they're really relying on me and listening to me and know I do this a lot and kind of following in my footsteps and taking the advice. And it's just been a really cool connection that we've had together through several hunts.
Well, that actually answers a couple other questions. Now, who's your favorite person in the Cardinal organization to hunt and fish with?
I don't know if I've hunted with anybody. So I'm on a hunting show, and so I always got my camera guy with me, who's a buddy of mine. I've hunted on Adam Wainwright's lease before, but I don't know if we've ever actually hunted together. But
what about Mike Shannon? I mean, he's a big duck hunter.
I've never hunted with him. But I mean, him and the stories with him and Whitey Herzog, all the time. Whitey, I just interviewed Whitey not too long ago for the podcast I do for the Cardinals, and we didn't get into it on the show. But I mean, he would go fishing with his players in the morning, and then go back, shower, get ready, and then go to the field and see them there later. So it's just crazy to think like your manager and player out fishing together, in the morning, just knowing how relationships are now in baseball. And, but they used to fish together all the time in the morning and then go out and play that evening. But Adam Wainwright's he would be my guy. Adam and I enjoy the outdoors. We talk about it all the time. So he would definitely be my go-to.
So you never went fishing with Mike Shannon and Bob Euchre at Paul Faust's place?
I did not.
No,
that would have been a trip.
I heard about it, and I thought that would have been really neat. I'm like, of two people to hang out with.
Yeah. I'm sure there's some stories flying there. Yeah.
Now, here's a question for you. I remember Tony LaRusso talking about somebody setting a duck or something on his desk right before a big win from a losing streak, and he wouldn't take it off because of a little superstition. What was it like being an outdoor enthusiast and having Tony as a manager? I mean, you go from Whitey Herzog to Tony.
Yeah. Well, Tony, and I believe that story was Mike Matheny, I think, was involved in that, and if I remember right. But we had on my team in 2008 when I first came up, we had quite a bit of outdoorsmen. And so there was bows hanging in the lockers all the time. And so we would come in and Tony would take them and put them in the trash. And it was just kind of a little fun little banter back and forth with each other. But he always respected it. We just kind of didn't talk about it. But there was one time we were going to San Francisco and he had a event, Animal Rights Foundation event, and he said, as a young player, you're expected to go. So he said, "Hey, Kyle, would you like to play in my golf tournament?" And I said, "Actually, I can't. My agent's from out there." And he said, "Oh, we're going to go on a pig hunt." And he was like, "Kyle, can you come to my Animal Rights Foundation event?" And I said, no, I'm going to go pig hunting during. And so we had a funny little back and forth on that. But he was all right with it. We would go down, we'd shoot our bows and underneath in the tunnel and get that time in. But we kind of respected both people's sides, and our common ground is we both love dogs, so we could always talk about that.
That's cool. Well, Kyle, I want to thank you for coming and joining us here at Wild Wine Life. I hope I can bring you back for a little bit more wine and some more stories. And I want to thank everybody for joining us here at Wild Wine Life. Please join us again. I'm Ray. I'm here with Kyle McClellan. Don't forget to live the dream, and here's living the Wild Wine Life.